Welcome to Tent Talk, the podcast with Nancy McCready, where we talk about life under the big tent of God's presence and the provoking process of discipleship. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tent Talk. This is Nancy McCready. Today's episode continues to give thanks for life, and I begin reading out of Devern Fromke's book, Ultimate Intention, on the chapter, Living by the Life of Another. This is so piercing. Listen to it. Listen to it again. Share it with others. Let Him love you and stand in His life and live as you were meant to live, my friends. Thank you for life. Those in the USA, if you're listening to this in real time, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. And though Thanksgiving is profoundly, this holiday, founded in our history of giving thanks to God, I am saying to God today, in this season of Thanksgiving, thank you for life. So my friends, wherever you are in the world, and I know that there are those on here who are listening from nations within Europe and in the UK and in South and Central America and all over nations and in the US of A. Let us give out a shout and thank Him for His very life. It says if we share in His death, then we can share in His life. So I want to read today from Ultimate Intention, and the title of the chapter is To Live by the Life of Another. And I'm pretty sure, as I'm reading, I will probably break out in my own comments. How many of you are laying bets right now that's going to happen? I am so stirred because I think we have to repeat and repeat and repeat the truth, not in rote religious repetition, but by the living words of God Himself. They carry, my friends, a gripping that will grip you. That's why you need not be eloquent. Oswald Chambers says that preachers don't need to fast food as much as they need to fast eloquence. You are not required. Your eloquence is not required, but to be alive, to have eaten His words for yourself. They are nourishing you. They are food to you. And then you speak them to others as He leads, as He directs for His purposes. And life can be imparted when the cross is working in us. To live by the life of another. This is the introduction to the chapter, so you have to remember you're coming out of several chapters previous, and this is the chapter, I believe, that closes out the first section of the entire book, Ultimate Intention. So here we go. From the paternal outlook, we realize that it was the Father's purpose before the foundation of the world that men should share His life. It was not because man sinned, but even before he sinned, that God determined in the fullness of time to share life through His Son. Had Adam obeyed God and thus been enlightened to see the value of the tree of life, he could have entered into sonship. Then by a constant eating of this tree, which represented Christ, he could have moved along the highway of realizing God's ultimate intention. Now, in spite of Adam's fall, God has made provision that Christ might become the continuing tree of life. It is simply a fulfilling of God's original design for man to live by the life of another. At last we have arrived at the highway where man can begin to realize God's ultimate intention. God has lifted fallen man up to resurrection life. We have been making the distinction between the way up, which involves God's work of redemption, and the highway on, which means the life of realization for God. Too many have never understood that God uses the blood and the cross in a remedial way by which he intends to bring us unto life. By the cross, he has been cutting us loose from our old natural resources that we might live by the life of another. Of course, from God's standpoint, man has had divine life from the initial moment he was born from above. But just as God revealed the value of the blood to reconcile and forgive, or the value of our union in death with Christ for our deliverance, even so it must come as a revelation that we are cut off from the old source of natural life. Now we are to live and move by the life resources of another. I must frankly admit that for more than 10 years, I had been occupied in my ministering with the aspects of the cross that deal with sin and its power. Then the revelation dawned. I was like a branch that had been detached. Now I must become attached, grafted to him, the trunk of life. Not only are we united with him in the likeness of his death, but also in his resurrection. I saw why Paul in Romans 5:10 was urging them to recognize still another much more. Quoting, "Being reconciled to God by the death of his Son, much more we shall be saved, daily delivered from sin's dominion through his resurrection life." Just as we must not separate Christ's death for sin from the believer's death with Christ to sin, neither should we separate that union in death from union in resurrection life. The Christian life is not a changed life. It is an exchanged life. I live, and yet no longer I, but Christ liveth in me, it says in Galatians 2:20. This life is not something we ourselves can produce. It is actually living by the life of another. Oh, here it comes, my friends, the comments. We share in his actual life. Every command is to the new life, the actual nature of Christ himself. As one who believes that discipleship is sonship, we follow the Son, and we must take up our cross. Where Jesus speaks of discipleship, the cross is ever prominent. If any man would come after me, let him take up his cross and follow me, conforming to my way of living. You can't imitate that. You can't produce that. That's why you're tired and frustrated. So he says, come to me. That tiredness is going to work for you, my friends. Those burdens that you have been attempting to carry, responsibilities that are not yours, trying to carry the weight of your own life, my friends, it's going to work to your advantage when it's buckling you under, because you may finally realize, I was never meant to live my life separate from him, but only in union with him as one who shares in his actual life. This is why self-improvement need not apply. Self-confidence need not apply. Nothing of self need apply to live in a son in the kingdom of the Son. What an affront to Christ for us to keep thinking he expects us to keep trying to produce when he says, I am the producer of life. I have shared my life with you. If you died with me, you shall now live in my life. His way of life. My friends, to learn His way of life is what we are to be spending the rest of our lives in. Not fixing the old, cursing the old, wallowing in the old, promoting the old, ministering the old. No, we have been cut off from it so that we may be united with Him in life. Give thanks today, my friends, for this portion. Read Romans 5:10. Read Galatians 2:20 and give thanks to your Father. And then let's move on into living as we were meant to live. Love you all. I'm stepping in here at the end of this episode to say that Tuesday, December 3rd, is Giving Tuesday. This is a marked out day for nonprofits to be able to be highlighted so that those who have like hearts with those nonprofits will be able to give. Now this, for Nancy McCready Ministries, launches us out on Giving Tuesday for our full end-of-year giving campaign. And I pray that as a listener here to the Tent Talk podcast, which is the podcast of Nancy McCready Ministries, that you would continue or consider being a financial partner with us, whether that is a one-time end-of-year gift or it is one-time end-of-year, and then you decide to become a recurring financial partner with us in 2025. We want to make sure that that can happen. So check out the link, the giving link in our show notes on December 3rd, and make certain that you join us as we get ready to launch out into 2025. We love you all and thank you for being a part of Tent Talk and Nancy McCready Ministries.